welcome to a passenger seat podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca, and today we're going to talk all about the fantastic weekend that I had at Morris Fest over at Thorsby Hall with the Morris Register. If you're a regular listener to the channel, then you will know that this is an event that I've not missed since the first one, and is always a fantastic event. And we managed to find some new stuff to do, even in our fourth year of attending, which just goes to show what a great event it can be and what a well-placed venue it is as well. So Morris Fest starts on the Friday, and we met up with Lewis from the Young Members and Harry from the Young Members at the OK Diner just outside Stamford on the A1. We didn't meet at Peterborough services like we did last year because we wanted to make sure that Peggy was going to make it past at least the services that we spent a good couple of hours sat in last year when her engine went. So we got there a little bit early, and me and Jamie had some breakfast there before we headed on to Thorsby. Got to Thorsby Hall for about 2 o'clock-ish, having had a nice little convoy across the A1 and through some of the little back roads that lead you off the A1 to Thorsby Hall and Park. We got ourselves booked in and got our tents put up, and on our way literally along the road just outside Thorsby Park, we saw Archie going in the opposite direction, so we were a little bit confused, but he quickly turned up not too long later with Matthew, who had hopes to bring his car, but is now probably setting the record for the most amount of events turned up to in somebody else's car, as he had issues with we think it's his alternator in the morning, and so had ended up coming via train and being picked up by Archie at the local train station, and then coming along for the weekend, which is really dedication to making sure that you're going to get to an event and have a fantastic weekend. We got our little tents all set up. The number of bell tents is steadily growing within the Young Members, and even at an event where there was relatively low numbers of Young Members compared to like National, we're starting to be quite distinctive on the camping field for us being able to be spotted with all of our matching tents, which is quite funny. We had a little bit of a wander round. I managed to catch up a little bit with Andy and Billy the Bullnose, and as I hadn't seen them since last year. Andy unfortunately didn't end up coming to Morris Minor National this year in the beautiful Billy, so we hadn't had a chance to catch up, and he hadn't had a chance to see Peggy in her beautiful new gear. So that was nice, and then once we were all settled in and set up, unfortunately quite a lot of us had missed the cut-off for the curry order on the Friday night. So this time we ordered some pizza, went up to the brewery that has just opened up in the courtyard up on Thorsby Park, sat there, ordered some pizzas and stuff, and had a generally very nice afternoon in the sunshine, really. And I'd got this little beanbag toss game that we were able to play on the field, and just a relatively chill evening, but not for all of us, because Yayan and Tash were bringing Laura, who is Yayan's long lost Morris Minor that he's managed to get back and ended up doing a whole lot of welding on to make roadworthy, and is now back on the road, but was only back on the road as of Friday afternoon. And they then had quite a trek over from North Wales. So whilst we were sat there enjoying ourselves, eating pizza and enjoying the sunshine and beanbag toss, we were getting periodic messages through from Yayan and Tash about all of the troubles and difficulties that they were having getting themselves across the country, because Laura, the Morris Minor, was having issues with coils, and also there was a whole interior that had to go in before the car could come over. So we made the executive decision at about 10 o'clock that what we would do is go to bed and set an alarm for around midnight, which was their ETA, to then work out how we could help them get into the site and also put their tent up in the dark. Because whilst Jane and Tash would usually have the 3/4 of a Morris Minor, they had a tent this time because Laura had been so fine to the wire she didn't have a chance to get a tow bar let, so needed a tent. So they had a tent this time that was going to need to go up when they arrived at midnight. So we all went to bed, and then our alarm went off, and I don't know if anybody else's alarms went off, but we got up, me and Jamie, and Jane and Tash were about 20 minutes away, so we went on an investigative trip. I lost Jamie at some point in the kind of woodlands of Thorsby, and eventually, I won't say how, but we were quite creative in being able to get Jane and Tash onto site, and then it was a case of putting the tent up at midnight, 1 o'clock-ish, and then getting some sleep in before the following day. So quite an adventurous start to the weekend for sure. Now Saturday there's typically a road run and then the gymkhana in the afternoon, which you might remember from our very first time. We quite enjoyed doing the gymkhana and things like that, but we had a chat with some people about what the road run was to and how long it was, and we decided that sounded like a lot of driving for some of us that had been up quite late, so we ended up just popping essentially down the road to Nework Air Museum, which turned out to be quite a fantastic little place to go to. And we arrived, got ourselves parked up, and you enter through the gift shop, and I spotted quite a lot of things with Chinooks on, so I expressed my pleasure at how much there was with Chinooks on, and the guy that was in the gift shop told us that sometimes his son flies a Chinook in, and I think he must have mentioned that there was a Chinook in the museum, but I missed it, probably in my excitement about hearing about a Chinook flying in sometimes. So we went about our walk around the museum, and it is a really lovely museum that's quite open to getting people to go into some of the aeroplanes and sit in the cockpits of some of the aeroplanes. Some really interesting displays, some quite unusual planes. A lot of the time these air museums will focus on kind of World War II aircraft, whereas this museum, I believe, specialised primarily in post-war aircraft, and had a really interesting variety. There was a great sense of humour about the place. There was a lot of quite funny displays, like the Air Raid Henderson shelter for the chickens, and the Red Barrows display, which was red wheelbarrows. It wasn't a place that took itself too seriously, and it was quite fun, and the displays were all quite interesting. The way that they'd kind of written up about the aircraft was quite enjoyable. So after enjoying that, we made it to kind of the lunch cafeteria, had some nice lunch, and started doing some of the outdoor displays, at which point behind a helicopter we noticed that there was a Chinook, and it was a Chinook that was clearly under restoration. and according to its sign had originally been intended to go to the Falklands, but I don't think it ended up going. So it was the same sort of Chinook as Bravo November. It had served at some various places around the UK, and then had been involved in a crash, at which point it had been decommissioned and ended up at this museum. And the crash is what they were currently trying to restore it from. So I took quite a lot of photos, and then Jamie said to me, I reckon if you ask the guy in the gift shop, you might be able to go in the Chinook. And because they were really kind of welcoming, and if you were enthusiastic and interested about something, then if there was a volunteer free, you could absolutely kind of get a bit closer and have a look at some of the aeroplanes there. It was fantastic. So we went and had a word with the guy in the gift shop, and he says, well, we're quite short-staffed today, but we'll see what we can do. And he put an announcement over the tannoy system, and someone arrived, and they said, oh, can you show this lady around the Chinook? So I got to go in the Chinook and have a real look round. It's still very much under restoration. There was kind of no way of getting into the cockpit and stuff like that at the moment. But the co-pilot door was missing on this Chinook, like it should have sort of been missing on Bravo November. So that was quite fun. And yeah, it was amazing to be able to go inside and have a look round and kind of get an idea as to why so many people say about how seasick and air sick you get from it. It was absolutely brilliant, and a real highlight of my weekend, if not my year, to be able to go in and have a good look round and get some footage of the inside of a Chinook and see what it was all about. So huge thanks to them for allowing that. And we came out, and all of the young members had kind of sat there and seen me going around, so that was quite nice. And also the gentleman that was showing me around had a very lovely King Charles Cavalier Spaniel, which was also very, very nice to say hello to. We finished up at the museum, going around the last few kind of exhibits. Archie and Matthew had queued up to go in the Vulcan, but the queue was just not getting any shorter because of how small and compact it is in there, how long it takes to go in and out and round. So unfortunately they didn't manage to get in. We weren't in a massive rush, but I think they kind of got fed up with waiting. So we all got an ice cream from a gift shop. I got a few bits and pieces like a Chinook pin badge and some key rings and stuff, and then it was time to head on. And unfortunately, not only had my sleep the night before been interrupted by our friends arriving quite late, but also my airbed not surviving. So it was then a big Morris Minor trip into the centre of Newark to go into the Astor and pick up a new airbed and a few bits and pieces for that evening. Then when we were back at camp, we got ourselves all sorted out and again headed up to the on-site brewery to make use of their Wi-Fi to order ourselves a curry, and then it was quite a struggle to tell the guy where to deliver the curry to. So I think we've learnt that in future we'll just go pick it up, because when you say we're in the Black Morris Minor at a Morris event, it can be quite tricky to work out which one he's delivering it to, as we found out. But regardless, the curry was tasty, it was warm, and then we had some more beanbag games and sat round having a chat around our little camp that we'd built up. Sunday really is the main show day, and a few more young members turned up on the Sunday, which was really nice, including Alex, who is also in the Women Drivers Social Club, and it was the first time that I'd got to see her Morris Minor, which was lovely. And her Morris Minor, much like Yean's, is one that she had sold, regretted selling, and then ended up buying back. So that was nice to see and to get to know. And what I always love about when our young members go to the Morris event at Thorsby is that they will quite often go round all of the cars together and have a little wander around and chat about things that they spot on the cars and interesting little things that they notice. And it makes for such a nice little way to go around and it not just be, oh, that's another car. We all kind of have a chat. The auto jumble was obviously a hit with the young members, with some of them picking up panels, some of them umming and ahhing about some Marina wheels, and just generally it's a really nice display, it's a really nice location, it's such a friendly, fun atmosphere, and it's just a really nice Sunday walking around in the sun as it was this year, which is fantastic. There was also a little craft market on up at the courtyard, so we enjoyed some of that. I had a go at the raffle and unfortunately didn't win anything. There's always a big brass band playing, which is fantastic. And it was just a nice chill Sunday walking around some cars, and there was some truly exceptional pre-war vehicles that caught our eye. There was a beautiful post office van that was actually camped not too far from us that also had gone into putting lots of period things in the back of it and putting those on display. There was some brilliant commercial vehicles, which you know I absolutely love. Some really interesting and imaginative Morris Minors that had come along. It was just a really nice collection of vehicles, as it always is there, but with the space for a lot more people to come along. So if you've not come along and you are a Morris vehicle owner of any sort, it is well worth looking into and making the most of, because even if you aren't coming with friends, there's lots of friendly atmospheres, lots of group things. There's a music on in the evenings, there's an automotive quiz, there's the Gymkhana, the road run that you can all be part of, that make the event more than just a static display of cars on a whole weekend, which is always, I think, my preferred way of an event being. A great way for you to bring friends and stuff together, but also to get out and enjoy the vehicles that you've come in, which I think is just as important as sitting them there and making them look pretty, if not more so. We started wrapping up and packing our tent up at about 3:30 as the prize giving and stuff was going on, and then we got some photos, obligatory photo in front of the hall before we headed on home. And it was a pretty straightforward trip for us back from Thorsby, just basically down the A1 for a bit, but it was a fantastic weekend, and once again Peggy performed faultlessly. We had a fantastic time, and she was well behaved, and we got to spend some great time with our friends. Also, on the auto jumble, I managed to pick up a retro looking blanket, because Peggy's adventure blanket with all of her sew-on patches actually ended up being filled up just before her restoration. I think the last thing that I'm going to have on that blanket once the patch that I've ordered arrives will be Rustaville, which is pretty much weeks before she went away, and then we're basically starting this brand new blanket post restoration, and to pick it up at one of the first events that she's been to since, and then be ready to start collecting all of the things that she goes to seems very appropriate. So a huge thanks to that auto jumbler that had brought along this blanket, and I'm sure it's going to host a whole range of very happy memories for Peggy as we continue to pop the miles on her. So that kind of concludes my report on the 4th of these Morris Register events, and it's amazing that I've been 4 years in a row now, and they've all felt so different, even at the same location, because of different kind of things that have happened around the getting to the event. And the events themselves, sometimes we'll go on the road run, sometimes we'll go and do something else. It does offer a lot of variety if that's the sort of thing that you want to do. But that's it for me today. Thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.